Hey guys, we are going to continue the high-level hero guides all throughout September. This is a video number 4. If you haven't checked out the other ones, I highly recommend it. Every other day in September, we are going to be doing a high-level hero guide where I take not old games, but games of the last 6 months in competitive events, particularly in semifinals, finals of Nexus Gaming Series, as well as Heroes Lounge, Panda Cup, whatever replays I can get my hands on, and we're going to be breaking down the builds that they are going. With that being said, in order to keep me bringing these videos out as fast as possible this entire month, there are some sponsors. This month's sponsor is LastPass. If you've never heard of LastPass, it is the last password you will ever use, or at least that's kind of the gimmick of it. What LastPass does is you have one master password that you log into an account, and it will then create randomized passwords that it will remember for you, so you don't need to remember the passwords from multiple different accounts all the time, especially since using a basic password for 40 different accounts, it only requires one of them to get hacked to ruin your entire day. Which happens quite a bit because one day Netflix gets hacked and suddenly you all, like 40 other accounts all have their thing, or one of those 40 accounts gets hacked and now your Netflix has been hacked, and it's just one of those things that's really challenging to deal with. So it's completely free to make an account. Click the link down below, and if you want some premium features like having it be able to log into applications for you, something like Battle.net or Steam, without needing to copy and paste every time, then you can certainly grab the premium. It's only $36 a year and it supports my channel. With that being said, let's talk about Thrall, specifically Unaverted's Thrall. Thrall in the 4-man's always been something that was kind of near and dear to my heart. It was used a little bit in HGC. It was used quite a bit after Crash Lightning was buffed, but then after Crash Lightning was nerfed, a lot of people in the 4-man simply just ran Echo of Elements. I still think Echo of Elements is better in most scenarios if you're running Thrall in the 4-man. I would say Braxis and BOE are the only exceptions where Crash Lightning shines above Echo of Elements, because you're constantly fighting in the 4-man. However, there are benefits to both of these, and I definitely think that Thrall in the 4-man can be very beneficial. Because the amount of CC potential, burst potential, and poke potential he brings, while also having the capabilities to either bring Sunder for a setup or Earthquake, which has an amazing level 20 upgrade. Having all of those options. I mean, look at this burst damage. Like, you can do half of a Vala's health in a very small burst, and Unaverted's really good at just playing things out a little bit, taking his time. Unaverted was actually a coach for competitive teams, and so he tends to play a little bit more calculated than a lot of other players, less mechanical crazy things, but more of looking for particular mistakes and going for it. And that's what we're going to be mainly watching here, and we're going to be watching what talents he takes. Now, what I've found anyways, personally, is when I run Crash Lightning, I don't really like to take Mana Tide because I'm not getting as many hits with Echo of Elements, and the 2 procs of Chain Lightning and the lower cooldown of everything. I like to go Frost Wolf Pack usually, and my reasons for going Frost Wolf Pack is because that, and it synergizes really well with Alpha Wolf if you're trying to take down a tank. But because the tank is a Joanna who can blind you, I think that it is probably better that he just went with Mana Tide so he can get more hits off of the Chain Lightning. And it's funny because he's just going in because he can see everyone where they are. I mean, there were 4 people showing, so it's perfectly fine for him to go for that. Now, the downside is at the start of this game, I mean, they've raced pretty well. But now there's a forced fight. The enemies have a little bit of experience on them. Just that 4% lead right now anyways. And then also, he isn't completely stacked with Crash, so it's not always guaranteed to go where you want it to go. Now, the benefit of Battlefield of Eternity is you guys are fighting away from minions, which means that Chain Lightning's most likely going to be hitting enemies anyways. And so Crash Lightning is just going to be pretty much extra stats at that point. It's like you already have the reward just starting off, which is really great. So you can see he's just doing some extra damage. He's adding to the race a little bit, kind of ignoring the enemy heroes once he realized that they were close enough to win the race. And now he's back to trying to join the 4-man, getting his globes, and finishing Crash Lightning as fast as possible. Sometimes I wonder if Crash Lightning was kind of like Crash Lightning in WoW. Crash Lightning in WoW is a little different. It's like, for the amount of people you hit or abilities you cast, it charges up and then it does like one big thing, and like buffs your damage for a short period of time and stuff. It's interesting. So what he's doing right here is he's breaking this sidewall so that he can step forward, throw a Q on someone, and have that bounce to other people that are near it. This is a lot more effective when you're trying to stack Crash Lightning, and it's also nice when you're playing someone who has a CC. So for example, this target just got CC'd, and he can follow up with a Feral Spirit. Now I don't know if he's in range to actually land that one, and he is, but they're not actually going to be able to follow up and take out Troy, unfortunately. They're actually just going to get taken out because of some great portals coming out from Medivh. But yeah, it's an interesting build because he's just playing safe, he's poking people, he's forcing Ariel to always have to use the heals off cooldown, and he's just calculated. Wow, that's some aggression. And then he just hops away. Tries to go for a little bit. Nice shield coming out from Medivh. And again, he's halfway done with his crash stacks at 5 minutes into this game, only after the first objective, and now he picks up Ancestral Wrath. As Crash Lightning, this is not a bad talent. I don't think this is really ever a bad talent. I've seen people take follow through with Echo when they're just trying to win the lane, where they can poke and then hit and then poke and then hit, against people that maybe have a lot of sustain. Where you'll never get them low enough to get Ancestral off, so you kind of want to out damage them. Yeah, it's definitely one of those talents. It's almost always Ancestral. It can give you a ton of healing on tanks if you're in the middle of a fight, or if you just want to see if you can take out like a single person. Remember, he did about 50% of Vala's health in a short burst. If he could get even a chunk off, he could walk up and just hit her with an Ancestral and like a wolf and she'll die. But she still has a healer, so right here is tricky because he's not actually a solo laner, but he's benefiting still with Crash Lightning in the solo lane because there are a lot of people here. He uses E to get away from the enemies, and he still gathers a crash stack from it, and he pops the Ancestral so he can gain just a little bit of life before he ends up leaving. He backs before the objective spawns. One of the things, whenever there's an indicator about an objective spawning, you should see if you can back, purely because the time it takes to back is about 6 seconds, and then the time it takes to run to the middle of the map is about 20 seconds. So 26 seconds, and you can pretty much just get back after before the objective spawns. Now he decides to just clear up some stuff. So we've talked a little bit about his playstyle. We've talked a little bit about his build. What are the other benefits of running Thrall in the 4-man? You have a great follow-up, and you don't need to draft a healer that's dedicated for that follow-up. So, for example, Rhaegar doesn't have a great follow-up to a CC from an Anub'arak, and this allows you to have that follow-up in the 4-man without needing to run something like a KT who doesn't race very well. And so now Anub'arak can engage, you can follow up with the Feral Spirits, and you can run any healer you want to. You're not limited to a healer that's good at follow-up, which is really cool. And that's probably the biggest reason why you would want to run a Thrall in the 4-man, is that, or maybe you're just trying to get their ultimates available. So in this case, he uses a Sundering because he had to step back a little too far, and now they got a quick kill. I'm very surprised they went with Resurrect this game after all of the Resurrect nerfs. But hey, it happens, and now he's at the 23 stacks, and again, he's absolutely dominated. His Sundering set up for his team to go in, his Wolf allowed his team to follow up, and the amount of bursts that he did kept his, dropped the Ariel almost instantly when she tried to go back for that res. And then once again, he'll grab these globes. You can also back it this time if you need to, purely because the time that it takes for this to charge is also enough time to back and get ready. But if you do have a lead already, it's best to try to get some siege damage if you're not really worried about the enemies jumping on you, because you don't really want them to kill you before the Immortal spawns. You want them to have to choose between damaging the Immortal or damaging you. So let's see, right here, again, he's just trying to finish Crash. And this is the thing, is like, the reason why I say on Braxis Crash is good is because you can stack it super fast. And the reason why I say on BOE Crash is good is because the reward isn't necessary. It's good, but it isn't necessary. They're likely going to close out this game before Crash is even done. But on a map like this, it's not that big of a deal because when you're defending, Crash is always going to hit everyone, or your Lightning's going to hit everyone. And if you're not defending, if you're attacking the enemy one, it's going to hit the Immortal and then a couple other things. So that's why it's good on these maps. Now, again, you lose a lot of single target damage. So if you're against a healer that can't keep up, I definitely think Crash is viable. But if you're against a healer that can keep up with extra poke, I really think that Echo, even in the 4-man, is better. And I think it's better in most maps. But again, this is a guide watching high-level players. And now he definitely knows the times when Crash is good and Echo is good. That's why I'm just trying to clarify, because he's not here right now. And I've done videos where I bring in competitive players, but when I'm scheduling a lot of videos, I generally don't want to have to try to schedule in a bunch of different people. So right here, he's been holding off on his Sundering for quite a while. It's like he's looking for something in particular that he wants to Sunder. Currently, his team's still in a pretty good position. I would argue this is the only person that he needs to really worry about right here. But outside of that, everyone else is in a really good position. And that should be Rhaegar right there, so Rhaegar can always just come down. So he ends up using the Sundering to just guarantee the kill on their hyper carry. Without Vala, they lose a considerable amount of their damage. Because while they do have Medivh is limited, and Medivh's also in a cocoon. So with Medivh in the cocoon, with Vala being killed, they're left with just Sonya as their only damage dealer, and Sonya's not even going to be able to out-damage the healing from Bloodlust, which means that their team is pretty safe to do whatever they want to here. And most likely, they're just going to follow up and immediately root him. And he's going to do damage, forcing them to use the Protected early. And once the Protected time's out, Bloodsplat's going to fire off all of the abilities. So Porky's definitely need to just move slightly to the side so he doesn't get hit by all of them, which he does get hit by all of them. But he should be able to portal out anyways here. Now, if Crash Lightning was stacked here, he could throw a Q here, and there's a good chance it bounces and bounces, or bounces and bounces, or whatever, and it could potentially take out Porky. But, which there are no other minions around, so there's a chance it does that anyways, but most likely it bounces here, and then here, and then here. But either way, there are those potentials, and that's another fun part about playing Thrall, is every once in a while you can sneak a kill by just throwing out a Q. They call out back because they realize they don't have the ability to close out the game at level 13. And now they run all the way bot lane. They've got this huge wave, and they're ready to go if they want to just push in. They're going to let a Nubarok tank this while they let this huge wave of ranged minions do their high siege damage. And they're just going to continue sieging. I mean, now once everyone's up on their team, it's a little risky to do that. This is definitely a strategy I think more people should do. When you get a kill, get some value out of it. And they're just going to grab this, most likely before they back. Oh, they choose not to back here. Everyone went through this bush, and now he's sitting out in the open. But he will have Sundering soon. On point control, Earthquake is definitely more valuable, but when you just need to engage or interrupt, Sundering is a really good ult. And it's a lot of damage. Like, you can 100 to 0 people with Sundering. This would be a good Sundering right here, purely because... And that was actually really cool. He decided to move to the side. I was figuring just Sunder here. He moved to the side so that he can move these two people getting hit by Sundering closer to his team, and also still get that stun off. I mean, a Cocoon probably just saved Joanna here, I'd imagine. No, it still ended up breaking early, and then the res is going out. Bloodlust goes out, and this is another thing that's interesting, is that this could be another reason why you might want to run Thrall in the 4-man, is that you can have more auto-attackers for a Bloodlust comp. I generally think Earthquake's really good with Bloodlust because it just feels like everyone's just stopped on the enemy team. You guys are moving faster, enemies are moving slower, and you just kind of walk through their team. So I personally like Earthquake with it, but... he definitely wanted to run Sundering, and I think part of the reason that he ran Sundering was it got people away from portals. If a portal goes out, you Sunder, they get pushed away from the portal, and you can root them too far away from the portal to use it, and that could simply be the reason he went with it. It's something that I might want to ask him, because it is kind of a interesting pick. Sundering isn't picked very often in competitive, so I like it in Storm League because you can 100 to 0 people, but it's not always a great option if you're in competitive, because Earthquake is really, really powerful and very impactful. So let's continue talking about his build a little bit. He takes Frostwolf Grace, which by activating that, it's going to heal him, it's going to give him mana back, and it's going to bring back 0.5 seconds off of a cooldown. So it's just a nice way to keep yourself topped off, and it's a nice way to maybe shave off just a teeny bit off of an important cooldown. But generally, it's just going to be used for a little bit of healing. So right here, the teams end up going in, they decide to play a little aggressive, and he can simply just do a Sundering if he wants to try to engage, but again, it does seem like he picked Sundering for a very specific reason, and that's probably on those portals or on the stuns. In this case, they were able to take out Porky. Oh, actually, maybe not. Oh, that's a really bold bait right there. He gets out. It looks like Weary Day is going to get taken out. Or no, Weary Day ends up living as well. He's going to get a Fountain, and then he's probably also going to pop Frostwolf Resilience and then remounts up, I'd imagine. I'm a little surprised he's not just popping this off cooldown to get a little bit more healing. Okay, well, he pops it there. I guess the mount was more important than like 7 seconds off of a cooldown. But yeah. So it is a little bit of a different playstyle of Thrall than I usually play, and again, the Crash Lightning, it does get completed here, so now we get to see the full value of it, and this is a pretty early completion of Crash Lightning outside of possibly like Braxis. And right here, they're actually going to just do some a little bit more of a sneaky engage, where the objective's going bot, and they're gonna engage from a different direction, but the enemies end up trying to fight out a little further, and he's in a really rough position if he wants to go for this. But this is a really good spot for Sundering, as it's going to immediately stun everyone and set up for his team. So Sundering definitely got a ton of value this game, and it was a really good option to use the Sundering instead of Earthquake, because one, they're not getting to level 20, and two, they don't really need the extra slows. The CC and the extra burst damage has definitely paid off here. So this is how Unaverted is playing Thrall in the 4-man, and I do think Thrall in the 4-man is a good option for people that are trying to play in Storm League, because it covers a lot of the things that your team might need. It adds a lot more CC to teams that people generally don't run that much CC in, and it's just a decent hero to bring. So I would recommend Thrall in the 4-man more often than what people are running it right now. So I would definitely recommend that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do want to give just one more shout out to LastPass. Last password you'll ever use. You log in with one password to everything, yet they use very complicated passwords for everything, so it's harder to replicate. It's pretty much just a jumble of numbers, letters, and symbols, as well as a jumble of capitalizations. So it's very difficult to hack on your own or on its own. And then also, if Netflix happens to get hacked, you have a different password for every single thing that you have. It's completely free to download and use on both PC and mobile with that link down below, but I highly recommend checking out the features for premium, because at only $36 a year, it adds extra security, and it also just adds a little bit more convenience with a lot of its features. Thank you guys so much for watching, and check out my other videos.